The researchers would actually walk into the chamber and saw that the subjects actually mutilated themselves. Parts of their bodies were on the ground, they had whole organs out, some of them even ripped their chest open, had pieces of their arm gone. It was one of the craziest sights they've ever seen. Now, welcome back, and if this is your first time on my channel, welcome. I'm about to take you through this experiment called the Russian sleep experiment. It has to be one of the most deadly and weirdest experiments conducted by Russians. In 1947, 5 prisoners were actually subjected to an experiment in the Soviet Union. These 5 prisoners would actually be promised that if they completed this experiment, they would be released in just 30 days. So the researchers actually made a false promise to these 5 prisoners. He said that if they could spend 30 days without falling asleep, he would release them and they would be free. The 5 prisoners hearing this, they're like, yeah, I want to be free. 30 days with no sleep, that shouldn't be too hard. Yeah, like I'm going to take the deal. So all of these 5 prisoners took the deal, and what happens next became a little bit weird. The 5 prisoners would actually be placed into a gas chamber with nothing but mics and a small little glass window that was 5 inches thick that the researchers could actually see the prisoners through. The gas chamber would actually release a stimulant gas that would keep these prisoners awake for 30 days. But after the first 2 days, everything was actually normal, but day 3 to 4 is when things start to get a little bit strange. They would start talking about really dark and very traumatic experiences they had in life. And after day 4, they actually started to complain about this test. They did not like it whatsoever. Day 5 would move on, and then day 6 is when they stopped talking to each other and start to isolate themselves more. So in the chambers, the researcher actually provided them with living spaces. So each prisoner would have their separate corners with beds, books, bathrooms, washing material, anything. But after 6 days, they would start to isolate themselves from the rest of the subjects. The days just kept going and going, and day 9, one subject actually started screaming at the top of his lungs that he actually ripped his vocal cords. Him doing this would actually rupture his vocal cords, and he became completely mute. None of the other subjects in the room even reacted to him screaming. It got so crazy because these subjects were actually hallucinating so much that some of them actually ripped up papers from books and took their own feces and put it on the glass window that the researchers were looking in from. 3 days go by and the researchers are not hearing anything. They can't see inside because of the piece of papers and the feces that's on the glass. They don't hear anyone. They're thinking like, yo, are the subjects even still alive? Like we gotta make sure they're still there. As time goes on, they realize that the oxygen sensor they have in the room actually was showing that people were breathing. So the researchers now are really confused as to what's going on because the oxygen sensor is showing that there's people still alive, but yet there's no one talking or any sort of reactions from anything that they say. So the researchers announced that like, yo, we're coming in, and if anyone resists, they'll be punished. And not only that, the people that don't resist and comply would actually get released early and freed. One of the subjects actually replied. He told the researchers, "We do not want to be freed." So the researchers are still confused, but because they hear someone talking on the other side, they realize that their mics that they thought were broken were actually not broken, and that the subjects were actually okay. So after that, the researchers no longer decided that they need to go in. So on the 15th day, they're still confused as to why no one's talking. One of the subjects actually spoke, and that's when he said that they don't want to be freed. But after that, no one else said a word. So they're not confused, and on day 15th, they turn off the gas completely. The subjects would actually know this and start screaming, "Turn the gas back on, turn the gas back on." The researchers would then open the chamber, and you would not believe what they found. The researchers would actually walk into the chamber and saw that the subjects actually mutilated themselves. Parts of their bodies were on the ground, they had whole organs out, some of them even ripped their chest open, had pieces of their arm gone. It was one of the craziest sights they've ever seen. So they also noticed they actually weren't even eating the food that they had stored for them. They were actually eating themselves. The researchers were like, yo, we gotta get the soldiers in here to bring them out to take them to the hospital. When the soldiers arrived, these subjects started acting very crazy. The soldiers would try to grab them and force them out, but the subjects would not go. One of the subjects actually grabbed the soldier by his neck and started biting his neck, which would eventually kill him. The soldier would bleed out, and then another subject would try to fight a soldier, but the other soldier would actually punch him and rupture his spleen. So after all these 5 subjects are fighting back the soldiers, the researchers are like, yo, we gotta get some type of anesthesia, something to like just shut these subjects down. So as the doctors came in to inject these subjects with anesthesia and the sedatives, they came to realize that they had an extreme resistance to these chemicals. The subjects were then taken to a hospital, which they would be evaluated, and some of them actually fell asleep, in which some of them died. The researchers seeing this, they would actually bring some of them back to the gas chamber because that's all they're yelling about. All they want is to go back to the chamber. Eventually, one of them actually fell asleep, in which they also died, and then one subject was left. The researchers would actually hook this last subject up to EEG to see his brainwaves, and notice that every time he blinked, his brainwaves would stop, meaning that he died, and then it would start again when he opened his eyes. They noticed that he was slowly dying and increased the amount of gas that was going into the chamber, but sadly, he fell asleep way before they could even get the gas to keep him alive. After the final subject died, the researchers realized this experiment was a failure and destroyed and burnt down all the evidence. They would eventually flee and leave the country. And that's the end of the story. Many people believe that this story is fake. Some do believe it's real, but let me know down in the comments what you guys think. Do you guys think this is a real story or a fake story? But anyways, thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe and like the video.